faith, belief in action. Randy Ollis is finding people who are guided by their faith from all religions, denominations, and walks of life, and sharing their stories with you. From the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is Finding Faith, brought to you by Northview Church.
With me this morning in our Finding Faith segment is Pastor Dewey Williams. Pastor, thank you so much for joining us here. I'm excited to talk to you. You have written a new book. It's called Finding Joy on Death Row. Can you explain what that's all about?
Well, Finding Joy on Death Row is really a combination of a memoir of my experience, and it's also the writings of the men on death row and how their writings impacted me. A lot of people see the title and they think it's about how the men on death row found joy. That's a part of it, but another part of it is how my reading their writings helped me to find joy in new and meaningful ways. So I found joy anew and afresh by working with the men on death row in North Carolina.
Okay, and you're involved, I believe, in the prison ministry. Is that correct?
Yes, I started doing prison ministry like 17 years ago at a local prison, a local state prison, and that eventually led me to doing prison ministry at the larger state prison where death row was located. And I got to know the chaplains there, and they invited me to start a regular preaching opportunity there at Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, and you also reached kind of a low point in your life, right, before you wrote this book, I believe. Was it your sister that shot your father? Is that correct? And you also had a daughter that died from medical complications?
Yes, my sister, in a spell of paranoid schizophrenia, heard voices, and she shot and killed our father. And it was at a time when I was really looking forward to moving my ministry forward. My dad was a pastor, and I kind of was trying to do better than my dad. And then all of a sudden, my dad was gone. And so that kind of drive and motivation was kind of crippled. And then later, several years later, my oldest daughter became ill, started having seizures, and through 7 years of really working to try to help her to overcome this, she finally had a seizure in her sleep one night and passed away. And so at the time that I'm going to death row, I really was kind of at a low point in ministry.
Sure.
I wasn't doing the things I wanted to do. I wasn't seeing the things I wanted to see happen in ministry. And I get invited to preach on death row when I went. So it was a low time.
Yeah. So as you minister to these fellows on death row, what were some of the things you learned from them? And I'm sure you learned a lot of interesting things about life.
Well, normally we think of death row as being a kind of a hopeless place.
Right.
But what I found was that the men that were gathered in Christian community there supported one another, they loved one another, they provided for one another, they encouraged one another, they gave joy to one another. And through that, they gave joy to me. And I preached 5 sermons to them on joy. I submitted those sermons to Yale Divinity School, and my sermons won an award at Yale. And so I had the men write about my sermons, and I had them write whether they agreed with my sermons or not. And then I asked them to tell me stories from their life as to why they agree or disagree with my sermons. And so I have over 200 handwritten responses from the men and women on death row. And I use those as a core part of putting the book together.
So I know you've learned a lot of lessons from these men. How do you take those lessons that you learned? How do you take them, and how do we take them and apply them to our lives?
Well, the important thing is that if they can find joy behind these bars and thick walls and chained fences, if joy can get into them, and how can I say I can't find joy? I can't have joy. Joy is that powerful. So the lesson for all of us is, if we will look to God, God will provide the joy into our lives, regardless of how low we may feel, how hopeless we may sense our situation is, how much in despair we might find ourselves, our families, our careers, our upbringings, we can know that joy is stronger than all of that. Yeah. The men on death row proved that to me. And when I read their writings, and when you read their writings, you will find the joy of God right there in the words that they express.
Hey, Pastor Dewey, we appreciate it here. We're running out of time. Again, the book is called Finding Joy on Death Row. Of course, we'll have a QR code up and people can go to our website and check it out. But thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your ministry. I pray that God will continue to bless you as you minister to those who are behind bars.
Thank you, Randy, for having me on, and may you find joy today.
I have joy. Thank you, and I know where it comes from. Thank you, Pastor.
All right. God bless.
I'm Randy Ollis. Thanks for joining me in the Finding Faith podcast. Join me again next time as I share more stories of people who are guided by their faith. If this podcast has touched you, I hope you'll share it with a friend. If you have a story you want to share, go to lifestylelive.tv and click on the contact button.
This is Finding Faith with Randy Ollis. Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast, and be sure to check out other great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network online at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.